a small space, obviously.
Because right now, some of the best football players from Easton are all playing at Notre Dame Green.
But I don't know.
Because they want to
People get funded, so it's a community that sold their sanitary sewer system.
Connections to get to better
Sell
colleges.
clothes, sell clothes.
And, you know, better colleges and
The Consumer Protection Bureau.
All right.
Supports that.
Going to call the Finance Committee meeting of October 18th to order. We have courtesy of the floor. Is there anyone who would like to address council? We have an individual who's coming up. Would you please identify yourself?
I do. Good afternoon, members of council. Steve Barron, Bethlehem, PA, but I'm also Director of Fiscal Affairs. I want to, if you'll indulge me, I want to pass out a paper so you can follow along with me.
You got 5 minutes like everybody else.
4 minutes, 30 seconds.
All right.
So, Mr. Meyer, specifically at the last budget hearing, council had asked about the salaries for the Planning Commission. And I read in the paper, and while I understand Mrs. Bradley talked about getting their solicitor to review the information you requested last year, I thought council could gain some insight into the salaries by looking at their most recent financial statement that was just released. So this is page 15 of that financial statement. And if you look at expenses, direct personnel expenses, between 2021 and 2022, the salaries increased 16.5%. The Planning Commission has about 20 staff according to their website. In 2001, their total personnel expenses were $1.5 million, and that's about $75,000 per person. In 2022, that number increased to over $1.8 million, which is $261,441 more than 2021, increase of 16.5% in 1 year. And that makes the average salary at the Planning Commission approximately $92,349.85. So I wanted council to have this information so that when you hear in our budget, and you currently see we have $605,000 proposed, we believe the Planning Commission, at that $605,000 is a good deal for the taxpayers of Northampton County. But any more than that would cause us to have a reevaluation of that opinion based on just simply the raw numbers in the financial statement. That's all.
Do you mind answering a couple questions?
I'll answer what I can, yes.
Yeah, all right. I mean, you answer what you can and don't answer what you don't.
Yes.
Did I hear you correctly that they plan on having the solicitor answer the question?
That's what it said in the paper, yes. That's what I read in a newspaper article.
We will do whatever we can.
Yeah.
I will get with Chris.
Yeah, I wanted to share that information because this was released on October 13th. So it is right in their financial statements, the increases. And that's to all salary members. I don't know how that was distributed or anything like that.
Thanks.
In line with that, Steve, the $92,000, just so I have a clear picture, and you probably don't have this, is there somewhere I can find, average can sometimes be deceiving if somebody's making this and somebody,
Yeah.
what is the highest paid and what is the lowest paid? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
Do you know where I could find that?
It is not publicly available, and I
Okay,
imagine
we'd have
that's
to
what the
ask.
solicitor is looking into with regard to the Planning Commission.
All right, yeah, I know you want to know, I just was curious, because,
We'll follow right to know.
yeah, fair enough. Any questions for Steve if he wants to? Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who wants to address council under courtesy of the floor? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Okay, we have controllers' reports, and I see the controller is here. First up is the hotel room rental tax, Lafayette Inn.
Okay, first of all, with that, if you go to the last page, there's a correction here. The amount payable was 2790.82.
We gotta find it.
That was a typo.
Give us a second here.
On the Lafayette Inn?
Yeah. It should be 2007-90-82.
The last page.
On the last page,
Yes.
tells you it's check payable to Northampton County for the amount of $4,336. Don't know where they came up with that number. It's a typo. It should be 27. If you look at the balance sheet, the page before and the exhibit,
27.
it's 279082.
Okay,
So it just, correction.
here, last page, very last page.
And I can tell you that we know for sure that amount's been paid because they sold the inn
Hold
to
on a
Lafayette
second.
College.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you, hold on, please. Are you, do you have it now, Tara? You know it? Yes, I do. Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
We have a question before you go on.
No, maybe I don't.
We didn't have an answer
All right,
anyways.
I'll go to Mr. Kusak and you ponder that.
Yeah,
Mr. Kusak?
if you look at October of 2021, tax remitted was zero. Was there Oktoberfest? There was, what was going on in October of 21 that
COVID?
they remitted no tax?
COVID?
Yeah, it could have been, I don't know, 21, I'm not sure, but I know that was something that was looked at. If you look at, go in there and they check,
Yeah, I mean, most of it
periodically.
is small potatoes until you get to that 1 month. It just seems like they just forgot to do it or something, I don't know. And then the other question I had is, I believe this property was sold to the
Yes.
college.
College
Yeah.
has it.
Will it continue to be,
And I don't know, we don't know that. You
Who's
know,
it sold to?
Lafayette College.
Lafayette College bought it.
Oh, you know what's gonna happen. You go off the tax rolls. I mean,
But they,
that's a fair
they,
guess.
they have volunteered to pay taxes to the city, so we can inquire.
Well, they probably keep it as an inn.
They're going to use it for visitors and teams
Yeah.
until they build their hotel.
Yeah.
And Forks Township's plan is to.
So they'll use this for their guests and it will remain on the hotel.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hope. We just have
We
to
hope.
ask.
Any other questions about the Lafayette Hotel?
It looks pretty straightforward.
If not, we'll move on to the non-site visits. Hotel room.
Really is, that's the Lafayette Inn was the only one that really amounted to anything here. These are just,
Well, what, why don't we, let's go with what is non-site visit? What's the definition of that?
they do it over the phone with the people. That's all I can tell you about that. I know that if you look on page 3 on the non-site, Camp Charles, there was a little issue there, but nothing that amounted to $4.16.
All right, well, we'll take a second, everybody, just take a look and see if in fact you have any questions before we move on. Interesting. Any questions about this?
I think the things should look for, and what I look for when they give me these is the findings. When they come up with a finding and
Yeah.
what the results are, the findings. And there's usually, if there's no problems there, they become corrected.
Right. All right, well then, let's move on to the letter to the magisterial district judge.
Yetter,
Yeah,
Which one, Yetters?
Yetters.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Both these were, again, audits that are done every 2 years. They rotate through the magistrate's office, and the findings are usually pretty minimal. There's nothing in either one of these two that stand out that somebody was doing something drastically wrong. And the
All right, well,
Did
let's,
Mr. Yetter move his office? Where's he at now? Because he's not, wait, that
I
strip
think he
is,
moved down the street.
We don't have an address for it, just where's court.
No.
I'm sure the clerk can get that for you.
Yeah, that's something, they're just a contract with the county with.
Yeah.
All right, is that it? Mr. Heffernan?
I remember the last time we had a visit with the magistrate, there were some concerns about how the office conducted things. Has that been cleared up?
That was
all
a
above
different
board
office,
this
yeah.
time?
Yeah, that was cleared up immediately.
Yeah, that was a different office that there were people getting behind the wall. that
Access to
shouldn't- Yeah. And yeah, as far as I know, that's the findings, and they made those changes.
Correction.
I forget which
I remember
magistrate
there
that
was
was.
some pushback.
Yeah, yeah,
Point,
Yeah.
that came out in courts and corrections, that was corrected.
yeah, I'm not, it wasn't with either one of these two magistrates, I forget.
Any
Oh,
other,
No, it was this one.
It was Judge.
It was Jeter,
It was Jeter, right? I
Yeah.
think it was
any
Jeter.
other
corrected.
questions on this?
Yeah.
No,
If
as long
not,
as it was done.
oh, I'm sorry. You have any?
No, he answered.
Okay. Next, we'll go on to the District Judge Eggleston. Engelson.
Again, nothing really to report. Everything seemed to be in order.
Any questions?
Nope.
Not?
Bethlehem, Howard Town.
We'll go on then to the Corrections Commissary and Inmate Telephone System Performance Audit.
Again, like the last few here, there were no major findings, anything that, in discovery that should be reported.
Okay, well, let's take a minute.
You will see the next audit that's done with the prison on, there's quite a few findings that they're working on as we speak.
All right, well, anybody, I know over the years, we've had various questions regarding commissary and telephone, so I'm glad that there's nothing that jumps out. Anybody have any questions on this particular area?
Yeah, I had one.
Go ahead.
Is the West Easton facility, I know it was closed for much of this, was any of that taken into account?
Yeah, that was, you'll see that in the next audit. I know, that reading what the preliminary and the next audit, there's talking about the disparity between what's West Easton and what's, so this, I'm sure that's in there too, that there should be a difference between the two. Because they do keep them separate,
Okay.
yeah.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, let's move on to the county fuel card follow-up audit.
Okay, the P card. This is an audit was finished before Kathy retired, and the answers you're gonna get, the corrective actions that were taken. So,
All right, so,
nothing
all
there.
right, let's take a few minutes
Yep,
just so they can look at what happened in the corrective actions. Now, in past, when this has come up as an issue, at times, and then there's been corrective action, it's often been, that the folks weren't following all the procedures that they should be following, and I get the sense, looking at this, that that may still be the case in certain areas. I mean, I know they're saying that their corrective action is taken, but we'll see.
most of the time, that's just people change jobs.
Right.
And things fall through the cracks.
If,
and They get found when we do the audit.
if, I guess, and we'll have to talk to the new controller when they come in. if the same type of, they're paying attention. If both,
I am, I'm reading this.
if, particularly in this area, if the audit comes up and there's a problem and it said corrective action taken, and you do another audit, whether it's the next one or the following one, is there a marker or a flag put that if the same problem happens twice or 3 times, that even though they say, okay, we're going to do this, that, well, okay, this has been brought up 2 or 3 times, and the corrective action you're stating has not really been followed? So is that something that,
I think, and I know when they go to do the next audit, one of the first things they do is they bring up the last audit they did to look at the findings they had there and what corrective actions were taken. And I'm sure that that's something that's looked at. Now, to say it comes up in the audit to say this is the second or third time it was found, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that,
So what are the consequences for not following the corrective action, or are there any?
well, as the controller's office has no
Right.
hearing, we're just giving you the findings.
Findings.
It's up to the
Council
council
to
to make
make
that
a-
decision, right?
Mr.
Yeah.
Heckler,
oh, by all means, go ahead.
could we recommend a 6-month follow-up? And that way, you think that answers your question? Because it says action taken, but in 6 months, could we not ask the office to follow up and report back?
I would,
Because what it sounds like is, yeah, they said they're gonna put it on the website, yes, they said they're gonna follow up, yes, they said they're gonna do it, but it seems like it's not just within procurement's controls. It's about managers and managers following up, so could we just not ask for a 6-month follow-up to see if they're following the procedure?
I don't see why. I mean, council can ask, and then after January, the new controller can tell us if it's feasible or how long it would take or what the situation is. So, yeah, I mean, if council feels that way, we can ask to have a follow-up on this.
I mean, I can tell you that, like, your first 3 to 4 months of the year, just helping with the external
Right.
auditors. We have contracted out with them. Those 4 months are taken up, 3.5 months are taken up just by that. I don't know how difficult it would be to go back and look at all this. I know it's gonna be a little time consuming. It shouldn't be a total audit to go back and look at it, but
Right,
that's something that I think, we talk to the staff about and see.
I would,
I think, if I could just say, I think there's 3 or 4 little points that we would ask them to just review those corrective actions. I don't think they need to do a full audit, just
No.
go back and review in
yeah,
6 months.
let me just say, yeah, I don't think, right. I think we can talk to the new controller. I don't think anybody up here is going to say, okay, now it's January 15th. We want to know. But I think we
6
could request that,
Follow-up
is it
stuff.
feasible? And and put specifics on, we're not looking for a full audit. There's some questions on whether procedures, corrective procedures are followed up on. And that would be it. So, I mean, there's no formal action we have to take.
Just standing here in front of you, I don't see a problem with that, but without talking to the staff and finding out what they see might be an issue, I'm not.
Oh, no, I
And
understand.
I wouldn't put that on either one of them.
Well, nobody, we're not going to put anything on anybody. You're a short timer. And,
No, but I mean,
and when they come in, no, it's their office. I
Right.
mean, at the end of the day, as one controller once told me, I'm an independently elected controller blanket.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what they can say too. So, no, I mean, I think what's being asked is a
Yeah,
fair ask.
I do too.
How it would transpire, but we certainly, I think, can ask that.
6 months puts you at April. If you'd like to say by June of next year, that's a little bit more. That's 6 months that the new person has in the position, if that makes it easier. It's really just following up on if the managers are following up on the procedures that were set.
Seems like a letter.
Okay, you know what we can do? What we could do, Lori, is we can frame a letter, maybe signed by the president of council, to send to the controller's office stating what it is you'd like to consider having done. And that way, once it's over there and the new person is sworn in, then we can get from them where they're coming from. What do you think? That sound good?
Jeremy?
Any other questions, concerns, issues? Okay, let's go on.
I mean, the only other thing I have is,
That's it.
I know there's been issues with the Conservation District, and we are
You want
in,
to wade into that?
we are in the process of doing an audit on them.
Okay,
It's something that's done yearly, so it isn't like we're going out, stepping out to do anything, but the audit for the Conservation District has started. I know just as an innocent bystander, just following, I saw the issues, and the first thing I did was went in and said, okay, don't you think we should be doing an audit on these? And they said it's already begun.
so that little Easter egg will be sitting on the desk for the new controller.
It probably should be done before we get here next month. Shouldn't take that long to get done. But,
Okay,
Yeah.
well, all right, fine.
you know, I just wanted to give you that information
Thank
because
you.
it's something, they're arguing that money's being misappropriated or something. That's,
Well, depending on how it goes,
Yeah.
the controller's office may be, have more than one going forward
Well,
till this all gets, Ms. Zirinsky.
Well, I think that's an important point to make, since we have had so much discussion about the conservation districts
Right.
and about the misappropriation of funds. I think it's important
Right.
that we find out whether or not there is any legitimacy to those statements.
Right.
So I think
that's
it
exactly,
is definitely to the benefit of the county, especially when we might part ways. You're going to need a clean audit
Yep.
to separate. So I think it's important that we have that. So
I did go back and look at last year's audit, and there wasn't anything major findings or any problems with that audit. So I really don't expect any now, but
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I hear you.
Are we anticipating we'll have it for November? Is that what you're telling us?
It should be done. I know that's been started,
Okay.
so it should be.
All right.
Look for it in November. Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, any other business for Mr. Parsons?
thank you.
If not, thank you, and
Thanks.
we'll move on. All right, next is the discussion regarding collective bargaining unit arbitration award between the County of Northampton and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees District Council 88 Youth Detention Center Unit. So who's going to address this?
You have questions about it?
I don't know. Have you had a chance, people, to fellow council members? I looked at it, but
How did it come out?
it's.
Came out.
It's in here.
Depends
It's,
who you ask.
I didn't know if you had wanted to say anything.
There's not much to say.
It's resolved.
It's binding. It's self-executing. It's going to happen. It has happened.
Questions?
What percentage is it then that they got, if they got with their raises then?
Well, over the 3 years, it's about 15%. About 5 a year.
Okay.
So again, this is what was bargained. They've already agreed to it. What we're doing is just ratifying.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
there's no changes that we're making.
No.
Right. I just want to be clear that they were happy with the agreement because simply by the fact that they've already agreed and this is sitting in front of us.
I don't think anybody's ever totally happy, but it's a binding arbitration award.
Well, there's always a compromise in some way, shape, or form.
There
correct?
definitely was, and here it is.
A good agreement is where no one is totally happy.
Exactly, and I'm sure.
A good agreement.
Somebody once told me a joke about that with marriage, but I'm not going to repeat it.
Watch it.
Mr. Kusia.
Yeah, so I guess the question I have is the starting salary. So if I look at the one that's effective now, it's, what is that, $17.28 an hour? 2024, it becomes $18.06 an hour. And 2025, it becomes, what is that, $18.87 an hour? I guess the question, and since we don't hire anybody based on experience, we put them on step one. Is that adequate to recruit and retain employees,
I think
starting salary?
I think the short answer is no, but I think the longer answer is the the statewide problem suggests that there is almost no starting salary that would be rational, that would answer the problem. And of course, this is a significant change to ours, and what was requested approximately by Judge Daly when he came here those many months ago with respect to raising starting salaries. So there we are.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, this will be on the agenda tomorrow night,
Yeah.
and we'll move on. Next, we have something where I threw my paper. We'll have the Administrative Code, Article 13 contracts. Beltier Electric will be first. Mr. Mealy's here. You have the resolution in front of you. This is for a boiler blowdown rerouting project. Okay. Anything you want to say about?
It's a small change order that was needed. They needed to de-energize an electrical panel to perform some work overnight. They didn't want to impact a Graysdale facility and the laundry operations, so they came in at night, removed the disconnects, spliced some wires through, and we were back up and running the next day.
Okay. Yeah, so they went from 29.7 to 34.824 total cost
Yes.
with the increase. Fair enough. Any questions?
But the shift differential?
85
No, it was overtime.
Okay,
Yeah, you said they had to come in and
at night.
get it done quickly. You want it done, you gotta pay. Any questions? All right, we'll move on. Next is Blue Scope Construction.
Wow.
Yeah, so as you're aware, we've been trying for a while now to get a new maintenance facility built for our Parks Department at Louisemore Park. It's been out to bid several times over the years with little success on that. So this year, we solicited some additional quotes, one of which being through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program. It wound up being the more competitive and the better quote that we had received. I do have with me today Jerry Gorski from Gorski Engineering. They're the ones that would actually be managing the project on behalf of Blue Scope Construction. They would be on site every day. They do all the design work, manage the construction. It's pretty much the whole package there.
Mr. Meyer.
What exactly are we building, like a metal shed? What are we doing? What are we building?
It would be it's a pre-engineered metal building. It has, I believe it's 5 bays for our Parks Department to park their equipment, as well as a garage space for them to work on it. And there's also a break room incorporated as well for the employees.
It's more like a bigger pole building.
It's more structurally sound than that. It's a Butler building.
What's a Butler building? That's why we got him here. Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Kuzic?
Yeah, the resolution indicates that this is funded by monies outside of the general fund. What's the funding source for this?
It's a mixture. It's going to be some existing capital funding that we've had allocated for this project for years. We're moving in some additional capital funding from other projects that either came in under budget or just was no longer needed. I think there was also some bond funding left over that we're allocating to this.
How much?
Steve, is that accurate, or?
Yes, there's also county parks money that was put into to some of this, I believe, as well, correct?
OSI County.
OSI County Parks. So it's money, that OSI money doesn't exist in the general fund, so it is a special revenue fund.
then again, my next question is then, the other reason for this is because this was a non-competitive negotiation, right? Oh, I'm sorry, competitive negotiation. And the result, or the reason is because there were 2 failed bid attempts for the project. Now, we sat through a presentation where there was some nice, pie charts and stuff. Why did we not receive any bids here? Plumbing, HVAC, electrical?
I can't make any suggestions. I'm not familiar with the market in that way. But what I will say, this is a state contract. So at the state level, it's a Sourcewell contract. So it was competitively negotiated at the Sourcewell level, and then we are piggybacking off of that negotiation and that competitively bid price. We do that for some of our other
But
capital
we
work
tried
as well.
twice to bid this out through our conventional process and were unable to receive competitive bids?
We advertise everywhere. Michael can explain all that to you.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll get to
Yeah.
Jay. Do you want to, can you explain that, and then I want to get to Jay?
Sure. So when it was bid previously, the plumbing/HVAC contract is the one that we were not getting bids on. And it's a fairly small component of this project. So I think that, a lot of contractors just viewed it as it wasn't really worth the effort to submit a bid on it.
So nobody wanted the work? Is that what you're saying?
For the plumbing and the HVAC at least.
So we had bids for the electrical
We did.
and we chose not to use those contractors, or?
But we couldn't award the project without the plumbing and the HVAC bid. So we would have had to either try to keep those contractors on hold and rebid specifically the plumbing and HVAC portion. It just kind of,
Did you attempt like a negotiation for the plumbing and HVAC with somebody local?
we did not.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Where is Blue Scope Construction located?
Kansas City.
Thank you.
Any other questions? The question I have is the same one I had before. I don't know, we're going to have to look into this. And it may be our own fault, I don't know, with the responsible contractors ordinance. But it seems at times it's butting into the local labor ordinance. I was concerned about that when we went to Reading. I went back, I reviewed both ordinances, and certainly there's a bit of a conflict.
Go ahead, I'm ready to answer that when you're finished. I'm not stopping you.
Well, thank you. The thing is, I understand what we put in for the responsible contract ordinance, but it does at times appear to conflict with what's written in the responsible contractors ordinance.
That is why Gorski's here. They are, as was discussed, they are the people who are going to be doing the project. It's the Sourcewell contract, or the people who make these buildings are the folks in Kansas City. Gorski and their folks will be using local contractors to do that work. It's not that this is going to be done by a general contractor from Kansas City. The folks will be local and they will meet the RCO, which as well will be local people working on the project. And one of the bigger reasons that we wound up with this as being multiply bid was with the lesser project that we were looking to do, with essentially started off as a pole building, then turned into a pole building with asphalt shingles, and we continued to go down in scope. The pricing on it was astronomical, and that's another reason why this didn't move forward. We moved forward into a Butler-style building, or a significant engineered steel building, and the prices were less as well. So Michael and his team have saved money on both sides. We're getting a much better building that'll last for 50 years, that will be built for our needs, rather than trying to settle for something that we could kind of cram into a budget that we didn't hit.
Okay. Any questions on that?
What's the size of the building?
I keep getting that
It's nothing here.
60 by 105, I believe. So 6,300 square feet.
So we started with a pole building, and then we went up or we went down after that? Charles?
The size stayed the
Explain
same.
that. He was talking about starting the pole building and went a different direction.
The building has not changed in size.
Okay.
And there were a significant number of things with the pole building that did not work well with ADA and all the requirements for the municipalities that we're building in. So building a building that is structural steel rather than a pole building will benefit the county for many more years to come rather than having a pole building.
And this bid process.
And it's coming in cheaper.
This bid process is, we went through the state with this, or we didn't?
We went to state contract, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Casey.
I believe, is there a gentleman here from the company, if he'd like to introduce himself and talk about his company? I think that might be helpful.
Good afternoon, I'm Jerry Gorski. My company is Gorski Engineering. We're from Collegeville, Montgomery County. We've been in business since 2003. We've been Butler builders for that long. We're career builders. That's the brand of the pre-engineered building. We do design, build, construction, and we're part of this Sourcewell program here in Pennsylvania. So we've done numerous projects for the borough of Phoenixville, much larger than this. We've done a lot of fire stations. This building is simpler than a lot of the projects that we get in the program, but everything that you've heard is accurate, that this is a better building structurally than what you started out with. It's insulated to meet the current energy standards as if it was a fully conditioned building. So if someday you would need to air condition it, you're going to be set up to do that. We do meet the RCO. We have apprentices currently on our staff. We have about 40 people in our company. And as Michael mentioned, or Charles mentioned, I forget which, we take care of everything. We do the architecture, the engineering, and the construction, and we're hands-on. All of our superintendents came up through the field. So the person that's on this job from before 7 in the morning until after 3:30 is going to be somebody that came up starting with tools in their hand and moved up into supervisory roles.
Ms. Zirinsky.
So, when asked, you said that Blue Scope Construction is from Kansas City.
Yes.
So can you just explain the relationship between wherever your company is in Collegeville
Yes.
and Blue Scope?
Sure.
So that we can understand?
Yes. So Blue Scope holds the national Sourcewell contract. So all that pre-vetting happens on a national level, not just here in Pennsylvania. And every state has their own kind of rules. But their commitment in winning the in winning the Sourcewell contract, Blue Scope commits to use local contractors, particularly on smaller projects like this. They're very large. So they use Blue Scope, parent company happens to own Butler Manufacturing. So they use the Butler Builder Network to find the local builders to partner with, and we've been a good partner with them. We've been doing this type of work for over 5 years now, and we're their preferred contractor in the state of Pennsylvania.
So you're from Collegeville, and then your subcontractors for like the plumbing, electric, and everything else where are they from?
Generally the area.
Because I know like we use Wind Gap Electric a lot.
Yeah.
Like, so will you be using them? Or do you not know who your subs are yet?
Actually, the electric on this job is a little bit unique, and I don't want to like bore you with details, but the metering equipment, if we just ordered it now, would be a year out. So we're using an electrician from Chester County that we've used on a lot of projects, a lot of our fire station projects, that has that equipment on hold for this job. So,
Because this is specific.
yeah, but it's just PPL, all the suppliers are out on metering equipment. You know, so it's a weird time in the construction industry, but we're picking somebody that can do the job because we understand this building was needed a little bit ago.
Okay. So the
But it's-
metering, will that eventually allow for like solar or something like that? Is that what you're,
We're allowing for solar and additional load on the roof, and we will build the electric room for solar. That wouldn't really affect the meter. It does run through backwards on the meter, but
Right.
we just want to plan the electric room to hold the inverter that's necessary for if solar panels ever go on the roof.
so it's being constructed so that it will allow for the future potential solar installation that has not necessarily been incorporated in this bid or isn't anything that you're going to do now, but it's a possibility in the future.
Solar ready.
Solar ready, that was a much easier way to say that, but I think that's good because we know that all these other, like, obviously, this doesn't necessarily compare to a warehouse, but we know that there's so many warehouses around here and trying to get solar on those hasn't happened yet. So it's good to know that we're starting to construct projects that are solar ready. Having just come from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission where we're talking about a climate plan for the future, energy efficiency and decarbonization is one of the key elements of the future plan, so it's good to know that that's possible. Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up then on that. So you're the general contractor, you're out of Montgomery County, which is not far. The electrical contractor will be out of Chester County. How about the plumbing and the HVAC? Where will they be? Do you know who those are and where they're
I don't,
typically gonna come from?
we really can't award anything yet because we don't have the contract. So we haven't awarded those, but we are trying to get, the site contractor will be local. I'm not sure if they're Northampton or Lehigh, but they're very close by, the site contractor. There's a fair amount of site work on this job. We didn't award, as Michael said, the plumbing and the HVAC are pretty small contracts.
Yeah, but somebody's got, I'm sorry, you're asking me to approve a contract here for, what is it, $2 million. You don't know who the general contractor is. You know the electrician is somebody from Chester, and you can't tell us who's gonna do the plumbing or the HVAC? That's a little kinda, trust me, I don't know, and this is odd. I've never seen anything like this. I've been here a while. But you're telling us to award a $2 million contract, not knowing, and you're not able to tell us who's gonna do the work? I'm not gonna be supporting this, so I appreciate what you're doing, but you won't have my support.
He's up here representing himself,
I understand that, but nobody can tell us who's doing the work? You're telling me Wind Gap Electric can't even do this? Something's not
Does
right.
anybody have any more questions for this gentleman?
I would just like to clarify, my company is the general contractor. We self-perform carpentry work, structural concrete work. So and we have the Butler. The biggest part of this is the Butler package, and we're the Butler builder for the area. So we cover the Philadelphia region and Lehigh Valley with Butler buildings. So we just haven't awarded, and I forget the percentage that's plumbing and HVAC, but it's small, we just haven't awarded it yet.
I think part of this could be, and council's aware that you may not be, and it's not your fault if you're not. We have a few different things going on with our own county law. Excuse me, what we've passed as county laws. We have the responsible contractor ordinance, which you were probably made aware of. I don't know if you were made aware of the local labor ordinance that was passed years ago. And I can tell by your expression, probably not. Over the years, that has at times tended to slide along, and I think the RCO maybe has pushed it a bit to the background. I think that Mr. Goffredo brought up some good points. I think you can have both, but we've tended to, the council at one time wanted to have most work unless it was impossible. At that point, the administration would have to give us a reason why they need a waiver, that the work would be given to local labor, Northampton, Lehigh County, regardless of unions, regardless of any of that. Some call it the 80-20. It was originally called the local labor ordinance. And so that's why you probably are getting some questions. And it was said at the time that that would cost the taxpayers 20, 30, 40% more. Council, still in its wisdom, passed it. It never cost that much more. So I guess, and it's not, I don't want to have you up here because this isn't your thing to do. You're doing what you were paid to do and contracted to do, and if that wasn't discussed with you, you can get at whoever the hell you want to have work on this project. That's your discretion. But I think that's where some people are asking, and we're not getting a lot of bids sometimes, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but at the same time, we're not, our standards have changed. We're not accepting some bids, which maybe in the future we should be looking at, but that has nothing to do with you at this point. Thank you.
You're just the object of hire.
Much as everyone just recently watched, Easton spent over a year and a half waiting for electrical components to finish their parking garage. One of the reasons, and we would be requesting a waiver if that was something that were necessary, but we went through what is usually preferred by council, going with a state contract, so that we already have a group that has been vetted by the state, and in this particular case nationally, but has been vetted by the state, and they are specifically looking for people who can get this project done. We've been very precise on getting projects done in a reasonable amount of time. We're not looking for things to languish out there or even be, subject to an impact fee later on because the project took too long. So that would be one of the reasons why the electrician would be coming from Chester, because they have actual inventory of the materials we need, unlike what we just watched go on in Easton. And we don't want to have a piece of that where this project starts and then sits around for a year and a half waiting for materials to materialize. As this is going on with the building boom and so much of this equipment being necessary elsewise, it usually comes at a premium, and we didn't want to pay the premium for what you would otherwise have to pay for electrical components because we wanted it sooner. And for that matter, the HVAC and the plumbing is in and around about 15% of the entirety of the project cost. So that's a de minimis part of the project. The major parts of the project are being done by the people who've been identified.
Fair enough. I mean, those were the arguments made when we passed the local labor ordinance, was that you're going to delay projects, they're going to cost more, and so on and so forth. But we still passed it. So I guess the question is the ordinance obsolete at this point? I mean, because we can always say, well, we went to Sinking Springs, or we went out to Lewisburg to get this guy because we really want to get this done. We don't want it to languish. That's an argument that could be made on almost any project.
We had one local contractor that started with us in the beginning of the year discussing this, and they have so much other work doing these sort of structural Butler-style buildings that they pushed us off. So that was kind of where we were left, and that's why the Sourcewell came into play here.
Fair enough. Yeah, go ahead. Tara has a question, maybe.
So the general contractor, Mr. Gorski, basically the Butler building is going to cost $1.8 million. Is that correct? That's what it says, general construction 1.8. So if we delayed the construction of that building until we found the plumbing, HVAC, and the electrical, how much would that building cost potentially?
Well, each year you see costs of construction go up, and in this past couple of years, we've seen some pretty exorbitant increases in construction, so it could be significantly more. I don't know, I can't project
Right, you don't have a magic
what the future will be, but I do know where we've been already.
I think we've seen with the Glendon buildings, that went up more than $100,000 because construction was kind of delayed. So I think that what we're trying to do, and what I think we're trying to do, is get the general contractor signed on so that they can construct the building now while we still have a good price. And the plumbing, the HVAC, and the electrical are included as budgeted items within the total cost. But I would expect that if those are delayed, we would get a change order.
No, for that matter, we're buying a package from them.
So,
So they're providing us a building with the site work and so on. They do design, build, construction, so that would be their problem.
so you're telling me that if they've budgeted $84,665 for the plumbing, if a plumber came in and bid for them, and they're like, sorry, dude, we're doing this for $100,000, they would eat that cost.
They would have to work that out.
So what we're doing is we're prepaying for the total package building.
We're buying a
now at today's prices so that we don't have to wait 6 months to a year when the prices most likely will go up for construction.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this at all? All right, I think now we're ready to move to PennDOT.
So this is a requested amendment to the existing contract that we have with PennDOT for the Meadows Road Bridge Replacement Project. As you know, we've been working with PennDOT for several years, going through the various phases. So the contract that we currently had, the reimbursement agreement with them, that was for the engineering work, the utility designs, and the right-of-way. So now that we are finally getting close to construction, PennDOT's requesting that we amend our reimbursement agreement to include the cost of construction. So they provided us with an estimated cost for what they think that'll come in at, and the county's responsible for 20% of that figure. So what we're requesting is just to amend our existing agreement that we have with PennDOT so that we can encumber the necessary funds for construction.
And that's $90,000.
And that is how we handle changes in cost over different projects. There's a change order request, or we change the contract.
Well,
Overall.
this isn't really your typical change order, but this is just, that's how PennDOT works.
Right, but I mean, any contractor, the state, PennDOT, if there's a feeling this isn't going to be enough money, we can go back. It's usually the contractor or PennDOT or some agency says, this is the new cost. If you wanted to finish it, you're going to have to pay this much.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions? I mean, it's standard. It's just, I think that helps with the whole idea of coming in on cost. No questions, and we'll move this on until tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, there's no, anything else on the agenda for finance. Is there any other questions or issues? I just have something new on this that I want to do. I'm going to refer, it's a financial matter, because we've heard a lot about schedules, finances, and those were the main arguments against the local labor ordinance. And I want to ask a solicitor to please look at the RCO and please review the local labor ordinance. And if you could see if there's conflicts there. My concern is that if the RCO is kicking out local people, let's say nobody bids on it, that is on a contract that would apply, the RCO would apply to, it should then be opened up under the other ordinance to people in this area, which would be Northampton, Lehigh County. Now, if they don't come forward, then you can go to Timbuktu to get the contractors, for that matter. So I mean, this, we talk about, we want to save taxpayers' money. We want to save taxpayers' money. But they're the ones paying the taxes, so maybe we'd like to give them the jobs. That was the heart and soul of that ordinance that I think passed unanimously, if I'm not mistaken, by that council. Because if we're not going to follow it, I'd like to let the taxpayers and the citizens know that we're not going to consider local labor, using local tax-paying laborers in our business dealings. Would you check that for me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, that's a topic that's very near and dear to me. It's one of the couple of them that are.
Yeah,
All right, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. If you look at Section 1318 of the Administrative Code, the section on Lehigh Valley labor, I think that would, that piece fits in with the ordinance as well. So I think that the two go together, and I'd appreciate an opinion
Yeah,
as well.
and maybe we have to tighten it up, maybe we have to do something, but it just seems like now, particularly, people have said, well, we're not getting bids, and I get it, we've had COVID, there's always something, you can always point to something, to get around something else. But I'd just like to know, I mean, I don't see the point in having something on the books if we're not gonna handle it or deal with it, get it off the books, make it easy then. Okay, if there's nothing else, the Finance Committee is adjourned. Call for adjournment. We're out of here. I
Well,
think.
no, we have capital projects.
Well, I'm out of here that's somebody else's meeting to run.
I was like, Ron, we aren't done.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no,
I think
I'm
we got
done.
another 2 hours
I'm
here. Are you
done.
kidding me?
I'm done. I'm done.
That's why John,